From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, I am Estefanía Bravo. This is From the South. Over 80 people have been arrested in the U.S. after protesting a court's decision that freed 2 police officers involved in the death of Stephon Clark last year. Among those arrested were a pastor and a journalist. About 100 people rallied on Monday night against the court ruling. Police in riot gear were deployed in response. On Saturday, Sacramento's district attorney said the officers were justified in using excessive force against the young African American. 22-year-old Stephon Clark was killed in a volley of bullets in his grandmother's backyard in March of last year. The officers claimed he was carrying a handgun, which turned out to be a phone.
United, we'll never be divided.
The Cuban government has condemned the Trump administration's decision to allow lawsuits by U.S. citizens against dozens of Cuban companies. Every U.S. president has suspended the section of the 1996 Helms-Burton Act that would allow lawsuits by Cuban Americans and other U.S. citizens over property nationalized during the 1959 revolution. But the Trump administration says those lawsuits will be permitted beginning March 19th. The move appears to be aimed at punishing Havana over its support for Venezuela. Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez responded via Twitter saying, quote, "The State Department's decision is hostile and irresponsible, intended to tighten the blockade and suffocate the Cuban economy. This measure has been met with the opposition in the world, even within the U.S., whose business community is against the blockade and in favor of trading with Cuba." Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says a reference to the Monroe Doctrine by U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton was an insult to all Latin America. Lavrov made the announcement during a joint press conference with the Chancellor of Qatar, and it comes after Bolton mentioned the Monroe Doctrine while discussing plans to create a coalition to overthrow Venezuela's government. The doctrine was established in 1823 and opposed European colonization of the Americas, declaring South America part of Washington's sphere of influence.
After the UN was established in 1945, international law has been regulated by the Charter of these universal organizations. The theory and practice of backyard are offensive in general terms, and I believe that Latin American countries will react to this arrogant statement by John Bolton when he mentioned that the Monroe Doctrine can be applied to Venezuela but has offended of all Latin America. More than that, Washington officials recently threatened, saying that Venezuela is not the end. Cuba and Nicaragua will come later. The countries of this region should think of such philosophy.
Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador has canceled a large gold mining project in the state of Baja California to protect the environment and water resources. Our correspondent in Mexico City, Pablo Perez, has more.
Well, the President Andrés Manuel López Obrador announced today that he is canceling the concession for a gold mine to a mining company owned by Ricardo Salinas Pliego, one of the principal main businessmen here in Mexico. This concession was held at the beginning by a Canadian company, even as it was on a natural reserve on a national park of Sierra La Laguna in Baja California Sur. This is the North Pacific side of Mexico. And then, well, it is environmental reasons, the one cited by the President López Obrador for stopping the project. He also said that exactly this state, Baja California Sur, along with Quintana Roo, are the ones that are producing the more richest and the highest number of jobs by tourist companies, which he says is a business that doesn't pollute so much, doesn't harm the environment in such a hard way as the open mining, as we have seen by different companies in the whole Latin American territory.
We thank Pablo for that report. The Mexican government has apologized for the first time to the families of 5 young people kidnapped by the police and later killed by drug traffickers. The police reportedly turned the 4 boys and a girl over to a drug cartel that killed them. The event took place in 2016 in the state of Veracruz, one of the most violent in Mexico. Their families say the apology is the first official recognition that the youths were innocent and not criminals. 8 policemen have been arrested so far out of 21 suspects.
Es una disculpa.
It's an apology for when we tried to criminalize your children. Without any grounds, they were falsely accused. May this be clear. Bernardo, José, Susana, José Alfredo, and Mario Arturo were innocent and should have never experienced what they did.
The Venezuelan city of Puerto Cabello is celebrating the traditional La Hamaca festivities. Hundreds of people joined the celebration, which starts with the depiction of a death. A wake is held for the representation of a deceased person with dances and music throughout the night. After that, the deceased is wrapped on a hammock and symbolically buried during Carnival Tuesday, or Mardi Gras. This is the 148th anniversary of the traditional celebration.
At about 5 minutes to midnight, celebration number 148 of La Hamaca begins. It is a very old tradition, kind of a show, with dance and music.
La hamaca is a tradition in our neighborhood that has been celebrated for a long time. We represent the death of someone on Monday and the funeral on Tuesday. It is a very important celebration and all the community attends.
Carnival is the perfect time for Venezuelan families to get together. They gather in the streets, squares, and their homes to celebrate this festivity together with their community.
Contrary to mainstream media reporting on Venezuela, the people are free and have taken this opportunity to have fun. Kids get dressed up in their costumes and take part in the carnival celebrations, free from fear, and the smiles on everyone's faces says it all.
To share this festivity with my family is really important. It's good for the kids to go out and have fun in a different way.
While most Venezuelans are out enjoying the festivities, others gathered in Plaza Alfredo Sadel Square in the capital, Caracas, to welcome opposition lawmaker and self-proclaimed interim president Juan Guaidó. He returned to Venezuela freely and faced no charges, even though the mainstream media said he would be arrested. His supporters continue on the path of destabilization.
Regarding the possibility of war, I think it won't come to that. The United States is not crazy. The US knows what it's doing, as do the other countries that support them.
The country is going through the most difficult stage in this period of its history.
Despite the countries and politicians who support war in Venezuela to overthrow the legitimate government of President Nicolás Maduro, Venezuelans are raising their voices in favor of peace.
I'm here to enjoy with my children. We Venezuelans want to live in peace for our children. Our children are the most important thing.
Citizens are carrying on with their daily lives, despite the threat of war looming over them.
Tuesday marks the 6-year anniversary of the death of Venezuelan revolutionary leader Hugo Chavez. Following a 2-year battle with cancer, on March 5, 2013, Chavez passed away. Chavez won 4 landslide presidential elections while defeating 2 coup attempts. He's remembered for leading a popular movement known as the Bolivarian Revolution that transformed Venezuela, giving all Venezuelans access to health care, education, housing, and food security. He's also promoted regional integration in Latin America and the Caribbean.
Gracias, Dios mío. Gracias, pueblo mío, por esta vida.
We'll be back very soon. Stay with us.
Para mantenerme saludable, yo corro.
To keep myself healthy, I study.
Για να διατηρηθώ υγιής, τρέφομαι σωστά.
Para mantenerme saludable, yo bailo. para mantenerme saludable. Yo purifico mi espíritu a través del cuerpo. ¿Y tú?
Get Your Body. Tuesdays, only on Telesur. From here to beyond the South. From here to the Caribbean or further north. Where can I see news connecting the whole South? From Washington. From Mexico. From Caracas. From Quito. From Havana. You can always see the news from a new vision, connecting the global South. Only on Telesur.
Welcome back. Argentina and Bolivia are set to sign a mutual agreement for Argentine citizens to receive free health care in Bolivia. More details in this report.
Jujuy has pushed for an extra health charge for foreigners. However, Argentine law establishes that healthcare cannot be denied to foreigners that need it, no matter what their migratory situation is.
We are respectful of all the provincial and national rules, and we have always said that the diplomatic means to resolve any situation between the two countries are the embassies.
The health minister of Jujuy says that they have already provided 200 chemotherapy sessions to travelling Bolivian citizens. But according to the Sanitary Sovereignty Foundation, non-residents cannot get oncological treatment in Argentina.
The
thing is that the government is emphasizing people in transit and is fictionally increasing the number of foreigners arriving at the border and leaving. They have the right to receive medical attention anyway, but with this entire Bolivian population is under attack. According to them, it looks like everyone in public hospital is from Bolivia.
Whilst the top spheres of both governments were establishing the agreement, Jujuy's governor demanded that Bolivia compensate the 160 million pesos that he said had been spent on medical attention for Bolivians.
We are talking about something retroactive. In those terms, the charge for something we have regulated in Argentina is impossible. It's not only immigration law, but that Argentina committed on an international level to incorporate these international human rights treaties into the national constitution to ensure and guarantee access to public health.
Sergio Sosa is a Bolivian and has lived in Argentina for 30 years.
I think it's an attitude of revenge, let's say, for some of the opinions offered by President Evo Morales.
Negotiations will continue to move forward, with meetings planned for March 18th.
Ahead of International Women's Day on March 8th, a forum was held at the headquarters of the Embassy of Venezuela in Chile. The forum was called Women Struggling in Latin America, and it was organized by the Center of Studies Francisco Bilbao and Venezuela's Embassy in Santiago. Dozens of women debated the struggles women face in Chile, as well as the advances and setbacks in social, cultural, and reproductive rights. Archaeologists have discovered a cave of hundreds of relics beneath the ruins of the Mayan city of Chichen Itza in Mexico. One of the lead scientists said it was incredible and would help researchers to better understand the origins and beliefs of the Chichen Itza residents. Chichen Itza is a city of stone in the Yucatan Peninsula, founded around 750 after Christ.
It is a treasure trove of scientific information, and we are exploring all the resources without being invasive so we can learn from it.
Thousands of people have joined the 5th day of Carnival in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. Samba dancers took to the Samba Dome Arena as they imitated politicians. Free Lula and attacks against President Jair Bolsonaro were throughout during the festival. Carnival celebrations are taking place until the 9th of March. The Carnival in Rio de Janeiro is one of the largest in the world, with thousands visiting each year.
We elected a Nazi as a president. The people did not want him. I am sure that the great majority of people did not elect him. He is not my president and he does not represent me. He does not represent the majority of people who are here. That's why these people today are singing at the top of their lungs against the prejudice he creates. This is the part of the fight for what we are living today.
And now to Paraguay to learn more about the history of Puerto Casado, a town with 7,000 inhabitants established during the 19th century, and that in the year 2000 was sold to a Christian sect called Moon.
After the War of the Triple Alliance, when Paraguay fought against Argentina, Brazil and Uruguay, sponsored by the British Empire, the Paraguayan lands were sold to big private companies. That's how the emporium of the company Carlos Casado S.A. was born, after extracting tannin for years from the quebrachos.
Carlos Casado suddenly left Puerto Casado once he took away everything he had. Then the new owners arrived, the alleged new owners, which were the Moon sect.
Carlos Casado S.A. reached its peak with almost 8 million hectares. It exploited quebrachos and sold lands until only 600,000 hectares were left. In 1996, there was no more tannin to extract for use in the leather industry, and Casado gave everything to the new owners. The people mobilized after this.
We were surprised when we found out that he had practically sold the whole town, our home. Everyone's home. Our parents and grandparents lived for many years there. So, we had to stop it. We mobilized.
When the Moon sect arrived in Puerto Casado, under the name of Victoria S.A., they promised to develop productive projects. However, no industry was established. According to municipal authorities, the sect intervened and decided over a big part of the public life of the town.
Don Francisco, a dear friend that passed away, who was a strong man, said that the company is like an octopus with many tentacles. He said that they always make alliances with people who are against the town.
Tienen personas de su confianza y que siempre están en contra de lo que del pueblo, ¿verdad?
In 2005, after 5 years of struggle, the citizens got a law approved, which let them use 52,000 hectares of land. But 2 years later, the judicial power declared that law unconstitutional, and the Congress eliminated it. According to the town's leaders, this happened because of Moon sect's pressure. The citizens say that they will fight for that land again with a new law.
Algerian students boycotted classes on Monday to denounce an offer by the president to run for re-election next month. Although President Abdelaziz Bouteflika had pledged not to serve a full term if re-elected, many students did not show up for classes. Instead, they took to the streets to reject the announcement of his candidacy.
We are saying that this regime has to leave. We are fed up, that's all. No to the fifth term and no to this system. They have to leave because we are tired of them.
Meanwhile, a cousin of Algerian businessman Rachid Nekaz has stepped forward to run for president after Nekaz was ruled ineligible.
I came to the Constitutional Council to run for president in 2019. Rashid cannot stand as a candidate, but he is with me. We will have the same program. I will do what he says, but I am the candidate.
4 U.S. citizens and a Kenyan pilot were killed when their helicopter crashed just after takeoff. The helicopter went down near a remote island in northwestern Kenya on a Sunday. The cause of the crash has yet to be determined. The son of a former Liberian president has been charged over the disappearance of recently printed banknotes. Charles Sirleaf was charged together with 2 former senior figures at the country's central bank. Their charges include economic sabotage, misuse of public funds, illegal disbursement and expenditure, criminal conspiracy, and facilitation. In Somalia, residents of Mogadishu are trying to get back to their daily lives following a suicide car bomb attack on the outskirts of the Makkah Al-Mukarramah hotel. 29 civilians were killed, and according to police sources, government troops killed 3 of the attackers. Meanwhile, opposition officials are questioning the government's capacity to confront the actions of Al-Shabaab, which has claimed responsibility.
The government has failed to secure the city because they can't stop the insurgents' attack. They shouldn't be satisfied with their work if there are still people dying, especially after dismissing security experts and then recruiting young and inexperienced staff.
We'll be back very soon. Stay with us.
The ruling world order has always subjugated the masses. But who are the actors behind every move? What are their real interests? We analyze every move on Critical Move. Weekdays, only on Telesur. An occasion to enjoy the cultural diversity that defines our South American essence. Come along to find out the story behind these personalities, traditions, and artistic expressions that unite us as a whole. Real Lives, Friday, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. France saw a third night of riots after two teenagers died during a yellow vest protest on Sunday night. The victims died after being crushed by a bus as they fled police. Riots broke out in the French city of Grenoble, with protesters setting up barricades and hurling fireworks and Molotov cocktails at police. This marks the 16th consecutive week of yellow vest protests in the country. Israeli defense forces have killed 2 Palestinians and injured a third after a car drove into soldiers in the occupied West Bank on Monday. Palestinians protested in response, setting paper boxes and tires on fire. IDF soldiers fired rubber bullet guns to contain the protesters. In the U.S., Democrats have launched a sweeping new investigation into President Donald Trump. A House committee is requesting documents from 81 people from Trump's administration, family, and business. The broad investigation could be setting the stage for an impeachment effort.
There's a lot of criminality which has already been attested to by one witness, Michael Cohen, but we want to hear from lots more witnesses, and we want to get a lot more documentary evidence. Michael Cohen provided a lot of documentary evidence. He brought checks that the president had signed or sent to pay off the various mistresses. But we think that there's a lot more documentary evidence out there of the potential corruption and lawlessness in the administration.
And now it's time to bring you more stories from around the world.
After spending nearly 6 years in prison, Egyptian photojournalist Mahmoud Abu Zaid has vowed to resume his work. Nonetheless, he has been being under supervision and is required to spend every night at his local police station. He was arrested while covering a bloody government crackdown on protests.
It's an unforgettable experience. Yes, it was extremely hard, but it was also a learning experience for me to see life from a different angle, a new angle that you can find outside prison. It was extremely difficult, but I learned a lot.
Women in Myanmar have taken the stage to break taboos about sex. Actresses gathered to put on their own version of the vagina monologues. The women believe that through this, young generations can begin to appreciate their bodies. The frontman for British electronic band The Prodigy was found dead in his home on Monday in what has been confirmed to be a suicide. Bandmates of Keith Flint released a statement on social media expressing shock and sadness at the death of the 49-year-old. Known as a unique and charismatic performer, Flint was instrumental in creating a new sound for British music.
As part of Carnival festivities in Italy, the traditional Battle of the Oranges took place in the city of Ivrea. About 500 tons of oranges were thrown by participants. It is believed the origin of this festivity dates back to Napoleonic times, when the Ivrea people faced French troops with the only resources they had. The celebration attracts tourists from all over the world. And with that, we've come to the end of this news brief. These and other stories, as always, find them on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also join us on social media. We're on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. For Telesur English, I am Stephania Bravo. Thank you for watching.